He touched my laundry, instantly regretted it. The fluorescent lights of Havenwood Mutual Insurance hummed, a constant, irritating drone that mirrored my internal state. My fingers flew across the keyboard, inputting claim after claim, a mindless task that usually soothed me. But today, Brent Miller was a persistent fly buzzing around my head, impossible to swat away. Brent. Ugh. He was everything I disliked in a person crammed into a 6'2", overly tanned package. A salesman, naturally, all charm and no substance. He treated the office like his personal playground, borrowing never-returning supplies, making loud phone calls about golf, and generally acting like the rules didn't apply to him. Mr. Thompson, our perpetually stressed-out office manager, was too conflict-averse to ever call him out. So Brent continued his reign of minor annoyances. It started subtly. My stapler vanished, reappearing days later empty. My desk calendar was consistently askew. Then came the comments. Harmless enough on the surface, but they always managed to make my skin crawl. You always wear such interesting clothes, Amy. Like something out of a museum, he'd say it with a wink, like he was complimenting me, but the underlying tone was always condescending. My passion was vintage clothing. I haunted antique shops and estate sales, meticulously curating a collection of pieces that told stories. Each garment was a piece of history, a tangible link to the past. I cherished them, treating them with the utmost care. Which is why what happened at the laundromat felt like such a personal violation. I was preparing for the Havenwood Historical Society's annual vintage fashion show. It was a big deal for me. I'd spent months restoring a stunning 1930s silk dress, a delicate masterpiece of ivory and lace. I'd even taken time off work to hand wash the dress, afraid that the dry cleaners might ruin it. The laundromat was nearly empty that afternoon. Just a few elderly women folding towels and a young couple engrossed in their phones. I loaded my dress into one of the large, front-loading machines, carefully selecting the delicate cycle. It was a long cycle, and when I was finished, I needed something cold to drink from the convenience store next door. Excuse me, I asked the teenager in front of the machine beside mine. Do you mind keeping an eye on this while I step out? He nodded while playing on his phone. I stepped away for a moment, trusting my treasure to the turning drum. That's when I saw him. Brent. Of course, it was Brent. He was standing in front of my washing machine, his brow furrowed in what I can only assume was supposed to be deep thought. The problem? He was touching my dress. He was poking at the silk through the glass, his greasy fingers leaving visible smudges. What do you have there, Amy? Some kind of wedding dress, he asked with a sneer. Brent, I said, my voice dangerously low, get your hands off my dress. He recoiled, feigning innocence. Hey, just admiring it. Looks fragile. Fragile is an understatement. It's antique silk, and you're getting it dirty. I asked that young man to keep an eye on it, and he did until you showed up. He rolled his eyes. Relax, I didn't break it. It's just a dress. I wanted to scream. I wanted to punch him. I wanted to grab the nearest bottle of bleach and douse him in it, but I didn't. I took a deep breath, trying to control my rising rage. Please just leave it alone. I turned back to my washing machine, my heart pounding in my chest. I could see the faint fingerprints on the delicate fabric, the subtle disruption of the intricate lace. The damage was done. When the cycle finished, I carefully removed the dress, my hands trembling. The silk felt different, rougher. I could see the smudges more clearly now, ugly marks on the pristine fabric. My stomach churned. See, no harm done, Brent said, a smug grin spreading across his face. You're overreacting, that was it. That was the moment something inside me snapped. It wasn't just the dress. It was the constant disrespect, the casual disregard for my boundaries, the infuriating certainty that he could get away with anything. You have no idea, I said, my voice barely a whisper. You have absolutely no idea. I gathered my dress and stormed out of the laundromat, tears welling up in my eyes. Sarah, my best friend and resident HR guru, was waiting for me when I got back to the office, her face etched with concern. What happened? You look like you've seen a ghost. I told her everything, from Brent's initial annoyances to the laundromat incident. Sarah listened patiently, her expression hardening with each detail. That's it, she said, slamming her fist on her desk. I'm going to talk to Mr. Thompson. Don't, I said, stopping her. It won't do any good. He'll just give Brent a slap on the wrist, and then Brent will make my life even more miserable. So what are you going to do? Just let him get away with it. I shook my head, a slow smile spreading across my face. No, I'm going to make him regret ever touching my laundry. The plan started small, a series of minor inconveniences designed to chip away at Brent's carefully constructed facade of perfection. First, his sales reports. He was notoriously sloppy with his paperwork, relying on his charm to smooth things over with Mr. Thompson. I subtly altered a few key figures, just enough to throw his numbers off and raise some eyebrows. Nothing traceable, just enough to make him look careless. Then came the coffee incident. I accidentally bumped into him in the break room, sending a steaming cup of dark roast cascading down his crisp white shirt and brand new Italian leather shoes. "Oh my God, Brent, I am so sorry," I said, feigning distress while secretly relishing the sight of his sputtering rage. Next, anonymous complaints to HR. I detailed Brent's inappropriate comments and boundary-pushing behavior, using vague language that couldn't be traced back to me. Sarah, of course, helped me craft the perfect wording. These were minor victories, but they were enough to unsettle Brent. He became more irritable, more prone to snapping at his colleagues. He started to lose his cool, the carefully cultivated charm cracking under the pressure. I also noticed that Karen Johnson, a senior sales representative and Brent's main rival, was starting to capitalize on his mishaps. She subtly undermined him in meetings, pointing out his errors and highlighting her own successes. The office was buzzing with tension, and I was enjoying every minute of it. But I knew I needed to escalate things. I needed to hit him where it really hurt, and that meant going after his mother. Alina Miller was a force to be reckoned with in Havenwood. She was wealthy, influential, and utterly devoted to her son. She frequently used her connections to smooth things over for Brent, bailing him out of trouble and ensuring he always landed on his feet. I realized that Mrs. Miller was Brent's ultimate safety net, the one thing that allowed him to act with such impunity. I started by subtly planting seeds of doubt in Mrs. Miller's mind. I accidentally overheard her talking on the phone about Brent's career aspirations and casually mentioned how competitive the sales field was, how important it was to maintain a spotless reputation. I hinted at rumors I'd heard about ethical breaches in other insurance companies, carefully avoiding any direct accusations. Then came the big sales presentation. Havenwood Mutual was vying for a lucrative contract with a major local business, and Brent had been chosen to lead the presentation. It was a huge opportunity for him, a chance to prove his worth and secure his future at the company. I knew this was my chance. I spent weeks meticulously planning the presentation sabotage, studying Brent's notes, and learning his talking points. I discovered that he was planning on taking credit for some of Karen's successful strategies, a fact that filled me with righteous indignation. The day of the presentation arrived, and the conference room was buzzing with anticipation. Mr. Thompson, Mrs. Miller, and several other executives were in attendance, their eyes fixed on Brent as he confidently took the stage. I sat in the back, my heart pounding in my chest, ready to unleash my carefully crafted plan. Everything started according to plan. Brent delivered his opening remarks with his usual flair, charming the audience with his polished presentation skills. But then, things started to unravel. I subtly manipulated the projector, causing his slides to skip and jump erratically. He stumbled over his words, losing his train of thought. Then, I accidentally disconnected his microphone, leaving him speechless and flustered. Karen Johnson seized the opportunity, stepping in to smoothly correct his errors and present her own data. She subtly highlighted Brent's missteps, showcasing her own expertise and professionalism. The audience was clearly impressed. Mrs. Miller watched the scene unfold, her face growing increasingly pale. She could see her son's carefully constructed image crumbling before her eyes. But the real blow came when I revealed Brent's plagiarism. During the Q&A session, I anonymously submitted a question asking about the specific strategies he had used to achieve certain sales targets. Brent, caught off guard, confidently described Karen's methods as his own. Karen immediately spoke up, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "I'm flattered that you admire my work so much, Brent, but I think it's important to give credit where credit is due." The room fell silent. Everyone knew that Brent had been caught red-handed. Mrs. Miller looked like she was about to faint. She jumped to her feet, interrupting the proceedings. "There must be some misunderstanding," she said, her voice trembling. "Brent would never do anything like that." But it was too late. The damage was done. Brent's reputation was in tatters. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Brent was pulled into Mr. Thompson's office for a stern talking to. HR launched an investigation into his sales practices, uncovering several instances of questionable ethics. His colleagues, including Karen, began to distance themselves from him, afraid of being associated with his tarnished reputation. Mrs. Miller tried to intervene, using her influence to shield Brent from the worst of the consequences. But even she couldn't completely salvage the situation. The executives were furious, the client contract was lost, and Brent's career at Havenwood Mutual Insurance was hanging by a thread. Brent, of course, suspected that I was behind everything. He confronted me in the break room, his face red with rage. "You did this, didn't you?" he hissed. "You ruined me." I looked him straight in the eye, my expression carefully blank. "I have no idea what you're talking about, Brent." He sputtered in disbelief, but he couldn't prove anything. I had covered my tracks too well. In the end, Brent received a formal warning and was placed on probation. He was forced to attend sensitivity training and was generally much more subdued and respectful towards his colleagues. His career never fully recovered. I continued to work at Havenwood Mutual Insurance, feeling a quiet sense of satisfaction. I had stood up for myself, defended my boundaries, and taught Brent Miller a valuable lesson. I had shown him that even a seemingly insignificant data entry clerk could have the power to disrupt his privileged life. I even managed to find a skilled seamstress who was able to salvage my vintage dress. It wasn't perfect, but it was beautiful again. I wore it to the vintage fashion show, feeling confident and empowered. A few weeks later, I was walking through the office when I passed Brent in the hallway. He avoided eye contact, mumbling a quick "excuse me" as he hurried past. I smiled. It wasn't a triumphant smile, but a quiet, knowing one. I had one, and it all started with a dress.